This video was recorded Monday, November 5th, about a month after the eye of Hurricane Michael struck the Big Bend region of Florida. We were driving from Carabel Beach through Apalachicola, then up to Port St. Joe. So we approached Mexico Beach from the south. We passed through several checkpoints as we continued on Highway 98 northwards, and then we went past Tyndall Air Force Base and then Panama City. And we don't recommend that you try to duplicate our trip just yet. We had good reason to pass through this area. We were heading home after doing some minor cleanup on 2 acres of property we own at Carabel. But travel through the area is discouraged because FEMA workers, contractors, and volunteers are still busy working at clearing up debris. Some of the demolition work is already underway, and a large number of visitors would just hinder their progress. There's a curfew in effect from sundown to sunup on top of all that. And soon after we passed through this first checkpoint, a sheriff's car pulled behind us and followed us for about 1.5 miles. Also, there's no gas in this area. There is a sign outside of Apalachicola that says no gas for 65 miles. The damage is actually a bit worse than what this video can convey because the camera only looks straight ahead. And closer inspection of several of these buildings reveals that even though they look like they're in good shape from the road, they are actually scheduled for demolition because their foundations have been undermined or there's damage to their rear or side walls. It turns out that Hurricane Michael was the third most intensive Atlantic hurricane to make landfall in the contiguous United States in terms of pressure. Behind the 1935 Labor Day hurricane and behind Hurricane Camille back in 1969. It was the strongest storm on record in the Florida Panhandle, and it was the fourth strongest hurricane making landfall in the U.S. in terms of wind speed. It was the 13th named storm and the 7th hurricane and second major hurricane of the 2018 hurricane season. And as of October 28th, at least 60 deaths had been attributed to this storm, 45 of them in the United States, 15 in Central America. Hurricane Michael caused at least $14.58 billion in damage. And part of that damage was to a very expensive group of fighter jets up at Tyndall Air Force Base, which you see here. Tyndall Air Force Base had between 15 and 22 of the F-22 fighters on the ground at the time the hurricane did the damage you see here. You also notice all the security fences are ripped away, and I'll warn you that when you go into this area, you are very much under scrutiny. There are these towers by the side of the road that are manned, and filming is being done, that kind of thing. We continue north through Tyndall and come into Panama City. As we emerged at the north end of this damage path, we were struck by the width of the storm path. It's about 65 miles wide as best we can tell, and it extends inland for many miles. The damage tapers, of course, as you go inland. Many of the residents affected by this storm are still living in temporary housing situations, either in RVs on their properties, in motels, in campgrounds, or with distant relatives. And the hurricane didn't just wash away their houses, it also blew away their jobs. There's temporary work for now available for some of them doing cleanup related tasks, but the sobering reality is that the destruction here is near total. Things will never be the same in this part of Florida. It was an iconic patch of old Florida, at one time dubbed the Redneck Riviera and later called the Forgotten Coast. And it was one of the last vestiges of the Florida that resembled the private detective novels of the 50s and 60s by writers like John D. MacDonald or, say, Randy Wayne White. So that part of Florida is forever gone. You can see here the destruction to timber and to agriculture has also been pretty severe.